007.
What's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame D, NYDC. It's two mics up. This is our business corner. Happy Friday to all of you. And today we're gonna really get into something that I think for all of us business owners. And you see, I'm touching my collar because sometimes I get a little nervous when it comes to tax time, operating my business, cash flow, trying to reduce your taxes, like all of these things really come into play. But today's guest is going to be someone that can really help us understand, you know, our financials and really, walk us down creating a plan, if you will. Uh, and better yet, not even just a plan, but an action plan. And I think that's what a lot of us as business owners really, really need, because sometimes we're working a day job. This is our part-time job or our side job or our side thing. So sometimes we're a little split and scattered. But today's guest is a numbers whisperer, as I like to call him, and I'm honored to have him, and he's going to educate us a little bit today. So, ladies and gentlemen, so without further ado and without further tease, please welcome to the other mic, Mr. Chris Peden. Chris, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, Damon. Just excited to be here and be talking to you.
Well, I'm excited because like I said, being a business owner, a lot of us are just helter skelters. We're patching and pasting and doing all of these things. But, you have a special skill. And before we really dive into your skill, I always like to really start at the beginning, Chris. And that's really find out who is Chris Peden. And, what do you do or like to do when you're not wearing that hat of the owner and head of Peden Accounting Services?
Well, I'm actually an autism dad. So I've got two
Okay.
young men in their 20s now. I'm not sure if young men applies to them now, but they're younger than
Right.
me. So we go with that. They're in the autism spectrum. So my wife and I have
Wow.
been dealing with raising them. And now a lot of times we'll spend a lot of time talking to other adults who are just maybe beginning in the journey of
Wow.
the autism and just kind of tell them, well, okay, first of all, you didn't have anything to do with this.
Right.
Outside of having the baby, and it's not your
Mm-hmm.
fault, but just giving them some support. Because when we started out, there was no internet. We were kind of just figuring this out on our own. But now we've kind of been the people that, the younger generation comes to and say, okay, well, what do I do in this situation? What's going on? And how can we manage? So that's kind
Wow.
of the, the accounting is a Clark Kent job now, but the autism helper is the Superman. So it's ripping open and there's Superman on the S there, a little A
Yeah.
underneath. But that's
Yeah.
what we do.
Wow. It's amazing, right? Like what you said, how times have changed, really.
Yep.
Where it was, I don't want to say an afterthought, but there really wasn't much information. There really
Yep.
wasn't that much access. We didn't really have community or
Yes.
communities that you could go to really understand and gain that knowledge. And it's great that, like you say, you had nothing to do with it, right? There's
Yep.
a higher plan and a higher calling, to the reasons why. But you love them still the same. You still encourage them
Absolutely.
still the same. And I applaud you and your wife. Like I said, coming from we're probably in the same age group where there was I don't even want to say a taboo, but there was a shun, to
Yeah.
that. So I applaud you for stepping out on on Front Street and on faith, to go ahead and do that. So kudos to you and your family. Continued success in that journey
Yes,
that
sir.
you and your wife are doing with your family. But
Much
to
appreciated.
move on, thank you, thank you. You know, so I hear motivation though. You're dealing with that with your family. So I want to then use that same lane, if you will, to ask what then really motivated you or inspired you to even get into the accounting services business, right? I mean, because look, you gotta be a special guy. That's why when I'm talking to you and thinking about this conversation, I'm like, this guy's got to be a numbers whisperer, because I don't know outside of my wife, because she was one. I'm like, you got to be a special person to do that. What inspired you, Chris?
Well, when I was in college, I went there. I saw the movie Wall Street, talking old school. So, young kids check that
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
and I wanted to be
Yeah.
a stockbroker, but my dad was a CPA. So I
Mhm.
kind of just, I guess it may be a little genetic, but
Okay.
I was kind of headed that way. And then I changed my major from from financial to accounting.
Mhm.
And I started during my senior year. I was a tutor working in our little tutoring center. People come in with questions in class and how to understand it. And there'd be times I always could tell when there's a test because I'd have 10, 15 people around my desk trying to figure out, this big, what is understanding it, what's going on. So I enjoyed
Right.
doing that. And then I went
Right.
out in the corporate world and worked a couple jobs. And then back in 2009, they gathered us in a room, said there's going to be some layoffs. So I
Mm.
went home, I got on the Iris website, started a business and said, all right, here we go. And the
Right.
more I talked to people, they actually laid me off in 2018. But the great thing
Mm.
was is that, when they had the conversation with us, everyone else walked out. They're freaking out and they're going, what are we going to do? Well, I literally walked in the front door. We had the tax business going for a while. My wife helps me a tremendous amount.
Right.
And I said to her, look, they're going to be laying me off. I can either reapply for my job, which I was 47. They're not going to rehire me, or
Right.
I can
Right.
do a package. She looked
Mm.
at me and said, all right, well, let's do go full time with the tax business. Oh, also one question. Do you want meatballs with spaghetti or should we just go without it? And that was the entire conversation. So what I say to
Right.
business owners is that build it up so that if you have a side hustle, what have you, work on that because you never know. So when you're going to have to go out on your own.
Right.
So what has inspired me is since that happening is that so many people come up to me and ask me a lot of questions and I like helping too much.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I get in a little bit of trouble and I'm not charging people for things,
Yeah.
but I'm working on that. But I do
Mhm.
want to help and just kind of make people feel easier about it. Say, look, there's no questions that I'm going to look at you and say you're stupid. Because if your
Right.
CPA talks to you like you're stupid, it's time to fire the stupid
But news.
CPA.
There you go.
So that's kind of what inspires me because I love talking and helping people feel better and say, all right, I've got this.
You know, again, so you're a giver. You know, you're definitely a giver, and I totally understand. I had to learn that too. You know, my wife, doing this. I mean, not this is my full time, but it's not my full time. This is my
Yep.
passion, and my wife's like sometimes she's like, all right, you're talking too much, you're giving too much, and you have to learn, the concept of your knowledge and what you bring. There's a value to it, and if people don't understand that value, then those are not the people that you should be talking to. And I
Yep.
had to learn that the hard way. So I totally understand being a giver because you want to see everybody succeed. You want to
Yep.
see everyone have some level of peace, and I call it peace to know that you're bringing in something, you're bringing some type of income, some type of gain that can help your household and help your family. So I totally get where you're coming from. But you and I, Chris, we probably gonna have to get together, man. We're gonna have to cut this out.
Yes, indeed. A support
Because
group.
exactly.
We got our own 12-step program.
For real. I want to ask too though, because one of the questions that like in our group when we were preparing for today's conversation, um, it's just like common financial mistakes, that small business owners make. Because I know we make a lot of them, and I know I did in the beginning. So what are those that you see, and maybe one or two of you could talk about, and how can people avoid, small business owners avoid making those one or two mistakes?
Okay, so first thing is that you have to realize. I'm going to tell you a story from when my oldest son was baptized. My dad was a CFO of a fairly large organization, and he dealt
Okay.
with billions of dollars. And my in-laws, my father-in-law was a correctional officer, and so it was two different worlds. And when we're sitting there at the table for dinner after the baptism, my mother-in-law my dad said something about all the money that he's working with, and she looked at him and said, doesn't it scare you that working with all this money? And he just looked at her and said, it's just a tool. So the big mistake I'm
Yeah.
seeing people say, they see this money, they see these reports, and folks, it's just a tool.
So yeah,
All it
that's a good point.
is telling you this is what's happening. So what I recommend is that you need to be a 3-year-old. Now, Damon, you've got kids, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You remember when they were 3?
Yes.
What did they do?
Everything was why. Yeah, all day long.
Be a question. Ask the questions. It's not so much, well, do I have this correct? If you can get a bookkeeper, hire them to get everything in line, and then you need to become the 3-year-old. Well, why did my expenses go up? Like, why did this go up? Why did my sales go down? Oh, I'm spending this much more in advertising. Did my sales go up? Just start asking questions, and then from there you can develop a plan. A lot of times, people will buy something like, let's talk about advertising. All right, well, you've bought it. Before you buy it, talk to the person you're buying it from and say, well, how much more revenue is this going to bring in? That's the question to ask. And, people always ask me, well, what about, what can I do to reduce my expenses? Okay, that's a good question, but think of it another way. How much by spending $100 on this, how much is this going to increase your sales?
Right.
You want to use it. You want to use expenses to grow the business. Now, if they're tax deductible, that's great. And most things that are, as we call, ordinary and necessary are going to be deductible. Now, don't go running out and saying, I need to buy a Lamborghini because that's ordinary and necessary for my business.
Right.
But just think about, okay, how can this help me grow my business? And that'll keep you out of a lot of problems. But also talk to your accountant. Ask the question. I was at last year, I was talking to cosmetology students in the local high school, and I said, ladies, this is going to be one of the only times we have a CPA in front of you. What questions do you have?
Right.
And this little lady raised her hand and said, if I got a dog for the salon, could I write that off? And I was about to answer, but her teacher said, no. That's unsanitary. The Board of Health will shut you down. You can't have it.
Right.
Ask that question. I would rather have you ask me the question now than I do a return or we make a financial plan and something happens and it blows everything up.
Yeah, everything up.
So the mistake is not asking the question because you have, get this out here. Here, you have the pen. You're paying somebody to do this. Remember that. Just because I have CPA, CMA, CMF, FM after my name doesn't mean that I'm God. I'm just here to provide some service. So ask the question.
I love that. And I think, it goes back to, one of the things I learned early on in life and at work or anything in life. There's no dumb question. If you don't know, you don't know. And the only way you're going to ever know is if you ask the question and find out to get the answer. So I love that. And, the way that you broke it down, just item for item, become that 3-year-old and ask that question. That's going to stick with me. That's a very great point. And I love that, Chris. Thank you for sharing that. And, one of my personal questions really at that, as we were sitting down writing today's conversation, for me, sometimes again, like I know I have a lot of things going on, and I do have a great tax person, but how can I be more proactive? Because really, it really starts with me. I feel, I'm the one that's kind of driving this, right? So how can I be more proactive in managing my business finances, throughout the year? Because most of the time we're doing it at tax time.
Yep.
But how do you become more proactive? Or is there any tips, like, just to kind of guide someone, me, to be more proactive through the year?
Well, what I say is set a time when you're going to sit down and work on those. What I tell my clients is that, I'm here in Washington, D.C. We have the Washington Nationals on. We have the Commanders, what have you. And I deal a lot with women who run beauty salons. What have you. I say, look, you got your husband sitting there now on the couch. Maybe he's watching the Nationals game, watching them lose. But maybe sit down with them and sit there, have the game on, and you just go through and take a look at your financials and maybe just set aside some questions you want to ask them or some things you want to look into during the week. And then on your to-do list, you just kind of pop through those. So it's really, it's a matter of setting aside time and saying, this is when I'm going to do this.
Right.
And making sure that, you do keep that appointment with yourself. And once you get over oh my gosh, I don't know these things, I'm so scared of it. Again, it's a tool, but use the tool that you have to help it grow. So it's really setting aside time to just look at the financials and develop the questions you want to ask. And if you need to call up your CPA, do it. But ask a question, but then also maybe with your staff say, hey, what are you seeing?
Right. I think that's a great point. I mean, we do set aside so much time for different things. This would just be another 30-minute conversation really, as a unit, just to add to the schedule, on our scheduled days to, go through whatever. Just make that another unit, if you will, of conversation just to add. So I think that is a very great point. And those are the type of things, like I say, it's so simple. Um, when you really break it down, but we, again, and I'm going to say not we, I know me, we make it more complex. We're looking at our time. We don't think we have enough time, but if you make the time, you have the
Yeah.
time, and then it just becomes normal, becomes your routine. So it becomes an afterthought. So another great point, Chris. I really appreciate that. So look, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short pause for the cause. We're going to thank our sponsors over at 94 Media House and TD3 Enterprise, and we're going to come back on the other side with Chris Peden. He's giving some great gems today, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you stay tuned. Two Mics Up Business Corner, brought to you by our partners at 94 Media House. 94 Media House is a small company that provides digital design services to other small business owners and creators. Some of their services include web design, brand identity development, and social media management. And what can I say about our partners over at TD3 Enterprises? They're bringing you quality beyond compare, top-notch services and support under their entire umbrella. Two Mics Up Business Corner, top-notch. So let's get back to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're fresh back out the break with Chris Peden of Peden Accounting Services. Chris, I want to change over just a little bit, because when we were talking about strategies and how to create your plan, coming out of the break, um, what type of, are there? I should really say, are there any tax planning strategies that you sit down with your clients and maybe recommend for maximizing their savings, as small business owners?
Yeah, I mean, the big one I always recommend is a small business retirement plan. And the great thing about these is with an IRA or a Roth, you have a certain amount that you can contribute to it, and it really depends on your income. And if it's a Roth, if you hit that income, you can't even make contributions. But with a small business retirement plan, you can contribute up to $50,000 a year, depending on how much you've made in that business. And the other great thing about it is that you don't have to make that contribution by year end. You can wait and make it April 15th. So what happens is that, what happens at, end of December 31st, you're broke from Christmas. You have no money.
That's right.
So what we do is I usually do my tax return for my client. And I say, all right, this is how much you owe. If you make a contribution of this amount by April 15th, it'll go down to here. And again, you have until April 15th to make that contribution. And you are at a probably time of year when you're actually going to have some cash, because you haven't bought that G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip for your kid.
That's right.
That's a great strategy to use. Another one, if you have kids and they're of a certain age, is put them to work in your business, because it will move some income from your tax bracket down to theirs. And really what you can do is, if they've got work that's fit for their age. I mean, Damon and I probably could get some 8-year-old probably help us with some of this tech stuff.
That's right.
That's what you can pay them for.
Right.
But you get on a timesheet, you pay them with a paycheck, or you make a contribution to a Roth, a retirement plan, or a 529 plan, and you can write that off. This money out of your pocket. And if they make less than whatever the standard deduction is for a single kid, and you pay them as an employee, they don't have to file a tax return.
Wow. Jeez,
so
okay.
Something to think about.
That is
Put them boys to work.
Got me just thinking. Like, okay, great. Yeah, because I'll be playing this part back, because I got to make sure I write all this down. That's great stuff right there. Like, ladies and gentlemen, you pay attention. You're getting some gems here today. Okay, so
yes, sir.
Speaking of that, right? So that's kind of like improving, like your cash flow, really, right?
Yes.
In a way. So by doing that, does that ensure like better financial stability then for my business, or can that lead to giving you that freedom?
Yes, it can, because you know what it is the thing with financial freedom is that you know what to expect. We talk about responsive. I'm going to probably mangle the quote here, but responsibility is freedom.
Yep.
because you
Yep.
know that at certain things are going to happen. So if you know that you're going to be paying out this amount for retirement and this amount to your kids and the rent and what have you, you know this is what you have to do. So it's one of
Mm.
those things
Mm.
that you don't have to worry about it because you already know, and you can work around it and say, all right, this is what we've got to do. So let's work to make sure that we have that covered. It's making sure that everything is lined up. So you have these things in place, and the more that you can make things that you don't have to think about, the
Yep.
easier it's going to be.
Yeah. That's the part. See, that's where I really that's the part I want to hear. Cause that's really what I'm thinking. I'm trying to think it through in my mind, and that's what I want. Because I think simplicity is best.
Yes.
Once you kind of put things in place, and then they just become normal routine. It becomes simple. It's automated pretty much.
Right.
And it's just you going back
Whatever
to
you can do to
check.
automate things. Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So look, I just want to make sure I was on the right path with that. So then in the background, Chris, like for you, and I don't know if there's something that you recommend or something that you use. Because at one point I tried to get into like some type of accounting software that I can just kind of help keep, and I have something here that we use in the background that we try to manage. But do you recommend one that maybe is easier, simpler, or something that can really help an everyday Joe or Joan, streamline her processes, you know, and kind of learn and work too, because to be prepared, because I'm on that kick, like I asked earlier, I want to be able to start doing this throughout the year, so that when I get down towards the end of the year, and you brought up a good point, like December or whatever, January, give my CPA a call, like, hey, this is where I'm at, take a look at this, so I'm better prepared, so I'm not rushing, in March, in April.
Exactly. Yeah, I recommend QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online. The great thing about that, sir, is that it can link to your bank account, so it brings in the
Mm,
transactions. And like you are when you're sitting down on a couch, you got the baseball game on, or a football game, or soccer, what have you. You can sit there while the game is on, and you can just go in, and it'll say you have these transactions. Please tell me what they're for, and you just basically
mhm.
click, 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 and you're pretty much set up. So that'll be part of
Oh,
your Sunday or Saturday afternoon, just clicking through to make it easier.
right.
Also, Gusto is a payroll service I recommend. So
Okay.
I don't do my own payroll.
Okay.
I have a system to do it because the laws change. You've got federal, state, and some people have local payroll laws.
Mm,
So bring
mm,
somebody in to do that for you, so you don't have
okay.
to think about it.
Right.
Please do not try to do your own payroll, because there's a lot more ways you can mess that up. So those are the ones I
Yeah.
recommend, Damon.
No. Yeah. The payroll thing, nightmare. Straight nightmare. Um, Chris. So there was something that came. I want to say, was it last year or the year before? I don't really remember when it first was rolled out, but I know it's been big in conversation for business owners, and that's the BOI, the
Yep.
beneficial ownership information reporting process. And curious from your standpoint, um, how might it affect people's business if they're not really, one, understanding what it is, and two, complying with it? Because it sounds like, from what I read, it could be a pretty hefty penalty, if you're
Yes.
not complying and in time or on time with the documentation. And two, I hear it's a very simple process as well, but I just want to get your take on it.
Yes, actually, it is. Really, the only thing you need to do, the hard part is going to be getting a copy of your driver's license uh, that you take a picture of and load it there. I did this just because I've kind of been putting it off a little bit. I did it just
Mhm.
last week, and it took me all of 10 minutes to do. And the hard part was getting the driver's license out of my wallet. But really, it's just your personal information, name, your business, street, address, what have you. The questions are fairly simple. And then, of course,
Mm,
again, taking a picture of your driver's license. But if you really, what I would do, if you think you look, don't think, just if you have a business, go and get signed up
do
for it. Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Don't try, and as my dad says, don't try to be cute with it. Just sign up. Now, if you
Right.
have a business before just January 1st of this year, you have until the end of the year. But if you just started a business in 2024, go and get it set up in there now, because
Yeah.
it's like 30 days from when you started the business. And I think there'll probably be
Oh,
a little bit of leeway, but you don't
hmm.
know the government. So go
Wow.
in there and get it set up.
So let me ask you this, because strange question. So that's for like LLCs and things of that nature. But what about like DBAs and different things like that? That doesn't fall under that purview.
Usually it's going to be the LLCs, because what they want to do, the whole point of this is to make sure that my wife and I were up at lunch. We were watching a cop show, and they were talking about how they got these companies that can do some criminal activity, just hiding things. Well, so what the BOI is making sure that you can't hide anything.
That you can't hide anything. Gotcha.
Right. So it's if you got an LLC, if you have a S corp partnership, C corporation, what have you, just go in there and take a look at what they've got. They've got the frequently asked questions, and you could always figure it out there, or talk to your CPA about it and see, will you need to do this?
Gotcha. So look, we're coming to the backside of the conversation, Chris. Amazing conversation, but I do want to actually, we follow and we watch, and looking at some of your stuff. You have a WTF. Now,
yes,
your WTF, ladies, does not maybe not what you think, but share with because I find it very entertaining and educational at the same time. And so Chris, take a second, before we get out of here, talk about WTF.
Yes, it actually stands for Weird Term Friday. So it's just something that hit me is that I get a lot of, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? So I was like, all right, so it is a weird term, and then it just hit me. Oh, WTF, because it does mean something else, and this is a family show, so we're not going to go into that.
Right.
But what I wanted to do was say, all right, here's a term that maybe I use a lot, or your accountants or business people, advisors use, and it's just a way to kind of just help educate and say, this is what it is. Because an educated mind is a great path to wealth.
Cool. Couldn't have said it any better, and that's how we like to end it, ladies and gentlemen. Please give it up for, today's guest, Chris Peden. He's an amazing gentleman. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, Chris, to be here with us today and really educating us, man. You are a true community gem. I wish you nothing but success. And before you go, I got to ask you, please share, your website information, where we can find you, online, your social media, because we want to share that with our audience. We're going to make sure we put that in the show notes. But I want to give you a second. Go ahead and share that before you get out of here, Chris.
Well, on Facebook is where I put a lot of my stuff. It's Chris Peden, or I'm on LinkedIn, Chris Peden CPA, so you can do that. I'm starting my Peden Accounting Services is the Yahoo channel, but just look for Chris Peden, and I'm going to be around. And I think that's everything, is it?
I think that's it in a nutshell, Chris. We really appreciate it. We're gonna go ahead and, like I said, and drop that in the notes, man. You're fun. Wish you, like I said, you and your family nothing but the best and continued success in all that you do, Chris. And we're going to wrap it up today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your man, Damon Cunningham, aka Dave, the NYDC. This is Two Mics Up Business Corner. Hey, look, now this is all brand new. We are actually going to be moving our business corner from our YouTube channel to our new channel, the Nfusion TV channel, which is on the Mogul TV Global Network, the #1 network for positive programming. We're in 45 countries. We are now really with Amazon and Roku, 100 million viewable subscribers. Check us out. Check out the network. Check out the channel. Man, we're just doing big things. You can catch me also Monday nights, season 7 of the Two Mics Up Celebrity Talk Show on the Mogul TV Global Network. Man, we just trying to keep doing things. We're trying to stay busy over here, Chris. Make sure you watch, subscribe, like, and follow us across all social media, IG, Facebook, X, I guess you call it now. And if you're watching this today on our YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and go down there. You subscribe to the channel. You hit that bell before you leave so you can be notified by us for all this new content that we're bringing you. And like we do at the end of each and every show, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave you with 2 things in the positive. May you stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.
007.